Um, from the moment I started this YouTube channel, there was one subscriber who was there pretty much from the start. She was a lady from Melbourne, Australia, but lived in Essex in England. And every video I posted, she was pretty much the first one to react. Um, when I opened up my membership, she was one of the first ones to become a member, a paying member. And we became friends. I even added her to my Facebook, so we chatted there. Yeah, she told me about her health issues. Whenever it got like change in the weather, when it got really cold, she suffered from different things. And then a while ago, I started a live stream, and I sent her a message saying that I was doing a live stream that evening, and she didn't react. And on the live streams of Wheel Sports from Jason, I hadn't seen her in ages there either. So I asked in the chat of the Wheel Sports live stream, and nobody knew where she'd been. People weren't sure if she was there last week. You know how it goes, you know. So it took another couple of weeks. I thought maybe she was on holiday, or maybe she was ill, and then, you know, she was coming back. But after a month or so, this was like in April, still no word. So I posted a little question on her Facebook page itself, hoping that some of her friends or family could react. And I didn't hear anything about that from that for a couple of weeks either. And then her daughter, who was still in Melbourne, reacted, saying that yeah, there was a bit of a mystery where her mom was. And she was going to come back to us, and then she messaged through Messenger. She sent us a message saying that her mom had passed away, and her mom was I don't know if I said that, was Beth Griffith. Beth Griffith. Now some of you may have known her from all the chats that we had in the Wheel Sports podcast and live streams, and my live streams, and underneath a lot of my videos she was there. So yeah, sadly she had passed away, and by the time we found out, her she was cremated, and her family took her to Wales, and that's pretty much all the information I have. But you know, I have the feeling that she was quite a lonely woman, and that the community that we had was pretty much the community she had altogether. So I wanted to take a minute to to talk about this, and I don't know, just give her sort of a sending off, because I definitely missed her not sending any messages, and I still miss her now, because it was nice to be appreciated. And she was a quirky lady, you know. She had drivers she really liked, like Max and Alonso. And then there was one driver that she didn't like, Lewis Hamilton. And yeah, well, she made it known that she didn't like Lewis Hamilton. So anyway, yeah, rest in peace, Beth. And I just want to leave it there, you know. Don't know what else to say. So I'll go to the chat, see what other people are saying about it. Martin Molesky says, sorry to hear about your loss. Yeah, well, it's like, it wasn't a relative. It was just a friend, an online friend, but still. Jason says, or Brian, as she became known on Wheel Sports. Yeah, Jason and Beth had a lot of banter together as well. And his live streams are a lot busier than mine. So that was a lot of fun. Gentiles, Richard says, rest in peace, Beth. Outlaw F1 says, oh, that's sad. Yeah, it's pretty sad, yeah. And Martin says, yes, it's good to celebrate her life and all of the happy memories she brought you. Well, that's why I'm doing this. Jason says, R.I.P. Beth. Martin says, amen. Jason says, very nice of you, Wim. And Vegas thought she was a cool person. Yes, she was. And Martin says, friends count. Family of choice rather than blood. Very true. And Jason says, called her Brian by accident and it stuck. Yeah. And Versa says, grazie Beth. I'm sure she's having fun racing in the skies. Yeah. Okay. Let's leave it at that. Because I'm getting emotional. So, what have I prepared? I have prepared the Max Verstappen teammate debate. This happened on the 2nd of September last year, when Lewis Hamilton told the press that he wasn't very impressed with Max Verstappen's achievements, because basically, Lewis Hamilton had it much harder than Max because of the teammates Lewis Hamilton had, and basically that the teammates Max Verstappen had were mid, and I don't agree with that, and I was thinking about making a video about this for a long time, but I have so much to say about it that I decided to do it on a live stream, and I'll probably cut it up later and make it into a video later. So, he said it was blown up too much, the achievements of Max, winning 10 races in a row. And basically, I have the quote here. So, this is Lewis Hamilton's quote. In my personal opinion, Valtteri and all of my teammates have been stronger than the teammates Max has had. Jenson, Button, Fernando Alonso, George Russell, Valtteri, Nico, I've had so many. These guys have all been very, very strong, very consistent, and Max has not raced against anyone like that. Now, that's quite a statement, and the cult that follows Lewis Hamilton are still using it to this day, that Max is getting it easy, and they're talking down on his achievements. So I decided to break it all down, and one of the first things that annoy me is that we're comparing drivers in completely different eras, in completely different cars. So I prepared how Lewis Hamilton worked against those teammates, but I'll go to the chat first because I see it's quite busy. Samantha says she's blubbing already. It'll be alright. Okay, Wheel Sports says Perez is better than Bottas. I'll fight to the death on that one. Yeah, well, we'll get to sort of those comparisons later. Outlaw F1 says, I'm a Max fan and I don't like Lewis. Good man, you're at the right place here. Versa says, Bottas is better than Perez. We'll fight to the death on that one. Okay, can you guys go in a separate chat then? Vegas says, careful, riling the mullet. And Outlaw says, let's keep it simple. Max beat Lewis in a lesser car. And Versa says, Max raced prime Ricciardo, that's about it. And Richard says, Ricciardo is better than Bottas and Perez. And Versa says, Wheel Sport Perez doesn't hold the record for longest Q3 streak. Guess who does? Bingo, Bottas. Okay, well, that's not the direction I wanted to go in, but anyway. Excuse me. So, the teammates Lewis Hamilton had. So, Lewis Hamilton came into the sport in 2007, and his first teammate was Alonso. Now, in that McLaren unit that was there was one main boss, and that was Ron Dennis, and he favored Lewis Hamilton quite a bit. Alonso is always straightforward, and when he was talking to Ron Dennis about having Lewis Hamilton as a teammate, Alonso said, "What, you don't want to win? You don't want to win the constructors?" And Ron Dennis took offense to that, because he had brought Lewis Hamilton from a 13-year-old karting wonder to where he was then. And yeah, sort of the things went sideways straight after that. So Lewis Hamilton, after extensive testing and driving a season and a half worth of miles in that McLaren package, came into the team, and he was good. Lewis Hamilton is good, and he wasn't afraid. And I like that. I like drivers that are just, show their presence straight away, even though he was 23. Fernando Alonso, he felt that, the garage was moving more towards Lewis Hamilton, and he always shared his prize money. So after he had a good result, he used to give the engineers money, the mechanics. And Ron Dennis said, "We're not doing that anymore." And Ron Dennis was pretty much a dictator, so Alonso did it anyway. He gave envelopes to these people. And that was later flipped in the narrative that, Alonso was bribing his mechanics to work for him. And that wasn't true. But anyway, Hamilton had his hands full beating Alonso, and he did it on countback. But I'd say if you get more seasons, with that duo, I think Alonso at the time would have beaten Hamilton a few times. Like on equal terms, I think Alonso would have beaten him. But anyway, Alonso had really rough seasons as well after, through his whole career. Like in the McLaren package, he finished 17th, 15th, 10th, and 11th, right? And he was barely beaten Jenson Button. And I think he even lost one season to Jenson Button. Now, I'll come to the equipment later, okay? But anyway, yeah, Alonso and Button were pretty much level. And Alonso was also beaten at Alpine by Ocon. And of course, there were circumstances that led to Alonso getting beat by his Spanish feisty teammate. But it did happen. Now, let's go to Button. Button beat Hamilton one season at McLaren. And if you add up all the points over those 3 seasons, then Jenson Button has scored more points than Hamilton. This is something that Jenson Button told us himself through his autobiography. Yes, that's how you say it. So it's not like Hamilton wiped the floor with Button. And then Button had these. Let me see. Oh yeah, Button was beaten by Alonso loads of times, and the problem with Button was that he had like a particular way of driving that he liked the car really balanced, and that made him on certain tracks a little slower than other drivers. But that was his driving style. And he was definitely not a very good qualifier, Jenson Button. Okay, and then Nico Rosberg, that was the next teammate for Hamilton. He finished loads of seasons outside of the top 10 until the V6 hybrid engine came for Mercedes. And that's when he started getting his wins. So, there's definitely a connection between having a super car and having super results. But anyway, Rosberg, he pushed Hamilton really hard, but he kept losing until in 2016 he decided to not sleep with his wife anymore. He started sleeping separately to get proper sleep, and he started eating differently, and he beat Lewis Hamilton in 2016, and then he quit. Right? Now, Bottas and Kovalainen, with all due respect, they're not in the same league. And Bottas is a good qualifier and a decent racer, but I've seen him bottle it so often. So I love Bottas. I definitely love the Bottas that we have now. That doesn't give a shit anymore. And then George Russell came, and he's beaten Lewis Hamilton one season. He's beating him this season, but he always bottles under pressure. And you can get that on a t-shirt on Wheel Sports channel. So that's the list of amazing teammates Lewis Hamilton has had, right? Drivers that have excelled in great packages, but were mid packages. And that's pretty normal. Now I'm going to the chat before I start the next chapter. Hello, Pendarky. I've never seen you in here, but welcome. Nico is better than any teammate Max has had. Surely. Okay, well, we'll get to that later. Jason says, yeah, Bottas is a better qualifier than Checo, that's true, but Checo is far better in races. I agree with that, because Checo was once in P20, and then he went out to win the race. And that was in a race where Mercedes done nothing wrong, except some strange pit stops to prevent George Russell from winning. But anyway, that's another conspiracy. Outlaw says, Max is 26 and already has records that Lewis could never win, even though Lewis was in a dominant car for so many years longer. Yeah, I agree. Those words are music to my ears. Versa says, Wheel Sports, Bottas got served with team orders because he was affecting Hamilton's legacy. Perez was always 15 seconds behind Max. Yeah. But we'll get to the difference between Max and Perez later in this live stream. Hank says, sorry to hear about Beth. My condolences to her friends and family. I couldn't react earlier due to technical issues. She will be missed. Well, Hank, you knew her quite well from all the live streams that the two of you have attended. Both of you were here very early on my channel. So, yeah, obviously, my condolences to you as well. Versa says, my man. Okay. Hank says, Hamilton's career indeed was funded by Ron Dennis. His investment should bear fruit. That makes sense, but not at the cost of Fernando Alonso. Or you can expect a reaction from Fernando Alonso. Versa says, so how does that prove Alonso was inferior to Max's teammates if the only time he lost was when he had cars with poor reliability? Okay, well, we'll get to that later. Yes? I'm building up to something. Outlaw F1. Lewis has been lucky enough to have always been in one of the fastest cars his entire career. Max could win in a second or third best car. Lewis can't do that. Well, it's true that Max, with his dominant and powerful racing and the strategies that Red Bull made and the quick pit stops, and then the consistency of Max getting those laps in when it was nearly impossible, made him win races. And truth be told, the last 3 years we haven't seen that from Lewis Hamilton, you know. But then again, Lewis Hamilton had to fight Max for wins, and Max doesn't have to fight Max for wins, you know, because he is Max. Okay, and next one. Dirk Helnerus. I haven't seen you in my live streams before either. Hello, Dirk. Bottas have something from a teddy bear. Yeah, he definitely has something from a teddy bear. Lovely bloke. Outlaw says, I think it's nice that finally a Dutch person wins and the Netherlands has a WDC winner. Yeah, it's true. Versa says, while you were saying stats to this world champions, Rosberg did wonders in Williams, and Mercedes getting his maiden win before Merck was even capable of podium finishes. Okay, well, what year was Rosberg doing wonders in? Let me see. I'm just going to look it up. Nico Rosberg. Let's say 2011. I can't find it. I'll just go to his wiki. Nico Rosberg. Scroll. Okay, he started in 2006. And he scored 4 points and finished 17th. Okay, cool. That's not much of a wonder. Then he was 9th in the year after that, scoring 20 points. Then he was 13th and scoring 17 points. And then the year after, he was 7th, scoring 34.5 points. So, Versa, I don't know what you count as wonders, but finishing 7th. And Williams, you know, with that Mercedes engine, for a few years they were pretty decent. You know, it's not like the Williams of 2020 and 2019. Okay, so I've got that sorted now. Versa says, that's like saying Albon is total shit because he barely scored points, when it's actually quite the opposite. He's extracting everything to score points. But Versa, this is exactly what I mean. You know, if you're criticizing drivers for not being a world champion or not being very good, but they've never had the right package, then you shouldn't do that, because those drivers at their own capabilities in their own respective teams are doing the most they can, and you can't judge them. That's the whole point. Versa says, cue the Dutch anthem. I always love hearing the Dutch anthem. And Vegas, he is laughing. And Versa says, also Sakir 2020 took 2 safety cars, Hamilton having COVID, a lap 1 incident, Merck giving their drivers 2 hards and mediums to win. If anything, pitting early helped him. Yeah, I know, I was joking about the Sakir Grand Prix. But still, he came from 20 and Perez won. And Verstappen says, just like Ocon's win. Yes, but anyway, it takes a bit of luck to win a race, but it also takes some luck to win a championship. And Versa says, again, you're just looking at pure stats. Williams then had miserable reliability, but Rosberg did the most he could. Okay, Versa, maybe it's time to let other people speak now. Yes? You have enough attention for a while now. Okay, I'm going back to what I've prepared. So, Carlos Sainz. In his debut season, he got beaten by Max Verstappen. But he finished 15th in his rookie season. And guess who finished P16 and P17? Exactly. Alonso and Button. Those wonderful teammates Hamilton had were beaten by a rookie called Carlos Sainz. In 2017, Carlos Sainz finished P9 and Alonso 15th, and that was in midfield cars. Ricciardo was one of Max's teammates. He beat Vettel one year. I think that was 2015. And he was third in the standings, and he was made to be the next world champion. And he had that capability in that package. But, well, not in that package, but if he had the right package, he would have become a world champion. Now, Gasly was brought in as a teammate, and that was way too quick. The guy had one season in Toro Rosso, and then he was brought in next to Max. And you could say, okay, well, they brought Gasly too early, so he was a weak teammate. Now, that would be true if Max was a veteran of 25 years old. But Max wasn't a veteran of 25 years old or 26 years old. He was actually younger than Gasly. When Max was beating Gasly, Gasly was 20 and Max was 19. And a year later, when Albon came in, Max was wiping the floor with Albon, and Albon was even older than Gasly. Yeah? Now, you could talk about, the experience that Albon and Gasly had compared to Max. Okay, but Max wasn't put into that car at age 17 and into the Red Bull car at age 18 for nothing. The standard of Max is just so high, and that's what I'm trying to prove with this video, that it's unfair to criticize Max's teammates for what they've shown against Max, because Max is always a level higher. Like Pierre Gasly, he won a race in an AlphaTauri. He had a second place in an AlphaTauri, and had a third place in an AlphaTauri, and a third place in an Alpine. So that guy can drive. And who's to say that Pierre Gasly, if he was put in that Mercedes, the dominant Mercedes of, say, 2015, 2016, or 17, that he couldn't have won a championship against Lewis? There's no way to compare that. But I say, seeing on the prizes he has won in mediocre material, that he is able to do that. And then after that came Perez, and we already talked about how Perez won a race from P20, but he's always been a good, solid driver. And the same as Jenson Button was always a good, solid driver. And I think they were even teammates one year, Button and Perez. And I don't think Button wiped the floor with Perez that season. So, yeah, we've talked about Hamilton's teammates and we talked about Max's teammates. And basically what I'm trying to say is that, you can't compare them because the situations weren't the same. But I say, seeing what they've shown in their respectively in their respective careers, that they could have won a championship or could have won more races as well. It's just very hard to show what you're worth against Max because he's so consistent. Okay, now I'm going back to the chat. Dirk says, I never saw wonders from Rosberg before he switched to Merc. That's my point exactly. And Versa says, oh, I've already read that one. And Vegas says, love you, Versatile. Richard says, Maldonado also won in 2012. Just saying. Well, I actually saw a video yesterday of Peter Brook, and he explained that the president of Venezuela had bribed F1 to give Maldonado the best tires that race. And then after the race, the garage went up in flames with those tires. But that's another conspiracy. Versa says, yeah, but outside Ricciardo and Sainz, you can't tell me that Albon and Gasly in their Red Bull era with any package could challenge Max and come close to the prowess of Alonso, Button and Rosberg. But this is what I'm saying. When you're teamed up against Max, who is so much quicker, something happens with these drivers because they're trying to be as quick as Max, and that sends them down a wrong path, and then the results start getting disappointed. And that's why you see them flourish outside of that car. Yeah? So you could say Gasly was a shit teammate to Max, and I say Gasly is a very good driver, same level as Button and Rosberg and Bottas and Kovalainen. Not as good as Alonso, but I love Alonso. But they just weren't in the right place to show it. And Gasly in that quicker Alpha Tauri in 2021, he showed exactly what he was worth. And Albon is doing a lot of good in the Williams package. Not this season, but that's still coming. So anyway, back to the chat. Versa says, also the bigger issue here is that Red Bull is built around Verstappen, so we can't even see any drivers perform the best ability there. This is another piece of bullshit that you're saying now, and this has been debunked so many times. There's a development team with Adrian Newey and Pierre Waché and, that whole team, and they build a car that is quick. They don't care if it's front loading or if it has a good rear or anything at all. They just build the car that is quickest. Now, if the driver's driving it and they say, oh my God, I don't like this balance, and Max says, hey, I can deal with this balance, and he goes quicker, then obviously they're going to develop to make that car quicker. Alex Albon has literally said, the car is just a car. They're both the same. But it's like playing a game on higher sensitivity where the mouse just goes all over the screen and Max can deal with that better. And that's it. But that's a quality. It's a quality of Max. And this is exactly what I'm trying to point out, is that Max is making his teammates look really bad because he can handle that sensitivity much better than any other driver on the grid. And I'd say if Lewis Hamilton was put next to Max in that Red Bull package, he would suffer the same fate as all the other drivers. Yeah? And then you could also say, yeah, they're all just going, they're favoring Max. But that's not it. The car is the car, and it's the fastest when Max drives it. Okay. Hank says, Versa, in a season with no dominant car or team, it is much easier to score a win. 2012 was such a season. And Martin says, making the calculation objectively seems extremely difficult to me. I don't know enough about those years to have any opinion. Max is dominating an amazing field of cars and drivers across the board. Exactly. Max is dominating in a season with a cost cap so nobody can outspend another team, with very restrictive rules, regulations, very open technical regulations. So if cars have something new, then they have to sort of show what they've got. There's no more fancy gimmicks on the car, like party modes or engine modes to make the car faster during the race. In the Mercedes dominance, that was all there, and not anymore. Okay, Versa says they build a car that is quick, hence at the beginning of the season the deficit between Red Bull drivers is equal. As the season progresses, they make the car more sensitive, as Max wants. Yes, but the car is going quicker. Yes, and that's the goal. And if the other driver can't handle that, then that's their problem. It's so stupid to say, oh, Red Bull needs to make Max slower to make Perez quicker. That's nonsense. No team does that. And Hank says, of course, the in-season development goes to Max. He brings home the bacon. And Richard says, why wouldn't they make it as Max likes? And do you think they would make it more difficult to drive on purpose? Their objective is to be as fast as possible. Exactly, Richard. Love you. Derek says, the most important question for me is, how could Max become such an adoptable driver who can handle cars on this level? Well, that's a good question. That's probably because when it was raining, everybody went inside and Max went outside to kart. And if the tires were completely gone on his kart, other drivers would quit and he would just keep going. And, he just had such an extensive training. And then he has talent from his father and talent from his mom as well, because Sophie Kumpen was really quick too. Versa says, Mercedes were able to build a car that both drivers could hone and tweak into their own style. Red Bull can't do that, and that's their issue. It's not an issue. It's not an issue at all, because Max is dominating like crazy, and he's bringing home the points, so they win the constructors as well. Everything you say is really stupid, Versa. No, I'm just kidding. Martin says 2009 Button and Braun stole a march on everyone else. I don't see that happening from now on. Those were simpler times, not long ago, but a world away from modern F1. Well, I'm coming to this point later. Hank says Mercedes was able to do so by their overpowered engine. Exactly. Okay, so my next chapter is called Equipment. Now, I can hear you guys say that the bad results of Alonso and Button were due to bad equipment. But Max's teammate, they were never champion because they never had the right equipment either. Who knows what Sainz could have done in the Renault of 2005 and 2006. Now, Sainz wasn't old enough to be in that car at that age. But anyway, the Renault package was really strong. Alonso was in it, pushed the most out of it, won 2 championships. I'm not saying that Sainz would 100% do that as well, but I'd say he could, pretty much. Nico Rosberg finished 6th and 9th in the standings at Mercedes before the hybrid engine was introduced. And then in 2014 he started winning races. Yeah? So if you judge Rosberg from the seasons that he wasn't in a winning package, you could easily say that he wasn't better than Gasly, Albon, and I don't know, just name all the other teammates. The Max teammates never had the equipment to show what the Lewis Hamilton teammates could show. So my point is that if you praise drivers in their championship winning cars, then you need to look at the lesser years too. Yes? And all those drivers I mentioned had much, much, much lesser years in much, much lesser cars. The same as Max's teammates now have lesser years in lesser cars too. Now, a championship winning a championship requires a bit of luck as well. You know, I've said that if Sebastian Vettel had gone from Red Bull to Mercedes, he would have retired with 11 championships. He would have been the GOAT of GOATs. But that didn't happen, and he was lucky enough to have, the Adrian Newey built Red Bull car for the seasons he had, winning the title 4 times. And he dominated, and that's another showing of skill. You can win a lucky championship like Jenson Button did, but to win 4 in a row, that requires a lot more talent. And I think Vettel should be in the top 10 of all-time GOATs as well. At least in the top 10. Max Verstappen, he drives his teammates mad because he just destroys them because he's so consistent. And he showed that this weekend as well. Bad for FP1, bad FP2, half decent FP3. Couldn't really show how good the quali pace was because of the red flag caused by Perez. And he puts it on pole. Nobody expected it. And I think if you're a teammate of Max and you think, you're winning against him, or, like Perez had a couple of wins in and thought that he may be champion. And then Max starts in P9 in Miami and still beats you by 20 seconds. That's very demotivating. And that kind of destroyed Perez mentally. Talking about consistency, even in the championship winning years of Lewis Hamilton, there were off weekends for Lewis Hamilton with strange penalties and crashes and awkward stuff, sliding off the track in Germany, or making practice starts in a place that you're not allowed, or stuff like that. Just weekends where he was half asleep. In 2021, nobody talks about this, but in Hungary, all the drivers behind Lewis Hamilton decided after their in-lap to pit for slicks because inters wouldn't work. All the drivers did it except Lewis Hamilton. And you can't blame the team for that because they weren't allowed to talk to each other during that in-lap, during that warm-up lap. So that was on him as well. And Baku pressing the magic button, in Imola sliding off the track. Hamilton has been sloppy even in the seasons where he won championships. So I'd say that the competition of Lewis Hamilton kept Lewis Hamilton alive, except in 2016 when Rosberg, benefited from Hamilton slacking some races and he won the championship. So let's go back to the chat. Vegas says Max does favor a pointy car. Yeah, he does. And Hank says Mercedes was able to do so by their overpowered engine. And that's true as well. Versa says Derek just experienced his father stretching him to the bone. Okay. Versa says that's not how engineering works. The car's quick. Max can gain tenths with more oversteer. Perez can gain tenths with more understeer. They choose Max. Yeah, I don't think anybody can ever convince you of how it really works, Versa. So I'm just those kind of messages from now on. I'm just gonna ignore. Hank says Versa. That's stretching it. Understeer isn't quicker. And then my wife Samantha says maybe, but who gets more sponsors and attention than the current WDC? Of course, the setup is going to be optimized for that. And Derek says, great live chat. Have a nice evening, everybody. Bye, Derek. Thank you for joining. See you next time. Also, fun fact, Mercedes approached Alonso and Vettel before Hamilton. I don't know if that's true. I haven't read that anyway. And my wife, Samantha, says, it's like me having two customers. One brings in thousands, the other hundreds. I'm obviously going to do more for the first, but I don't disadvantage the second, as they are still important. You're such a sweetheart, Samantha. Hank says, oh, I lost it. Of course, Rosberg won races as Hamilton's teammate. Hamilton isn't that motivated all the time. Versa says, so in truth, the car is developed around Max. No, Versa, the car is developed to be quickest, and Max can make it the quickest. Basta. And Outlet says, take care, Derek. And Hank says, Max data is freely available for his teammates. This crushes them. Well, this is a good point too, Hank. Lewis Hamilton has always been very secretive of his data. And then, at McLaren, he got pissed off with some data related issues, and he chucked it on Twitter to piss everybody off. In the period of Rosberg versus Hamilton, they even had to put a screen between the two sides of the garages because nobody wanted to see what the other side of the garage did. And Max, all his information is open freely for all the teammates to see. Oh, in this turn he's quicker, in that turn you're better off to do that. He's always helping his teammates. Hank says, what does matter? A date. A fact is a fact. Exactly. The date when it happened is not important. A fact is a fact. And Vegas says, the Red Bull is tailor-made for Max. The years of consistent data, if nothing else. Okay, that goes a bit against what I'm saying. But anyway. Richard says, Lewis was very good in 2014 to 2018. Very consistent with rarely a mistake. Okay. Outlaw says, Max lives racing. Lewis likes attention and, in my opinion, strange clothes and makes music. Max doesn't want any attention, just wants to race. Yeah, that's true. Max is he's probably doing a sim race right now. Martin says, I have the impression that Perez and his engineers get to tweak some parameters. It's not all from the top down. Perez said he got better last year by making fewer changes. Well, he actually said that this season as well. And the setup this season is more towards Max. And he's learning to adapt to it rather than trying to change the car into his way of working. Okay. Versa has one. Okay, I'm going to read that one out, Versa. The issue with these arguments is that you can make an argument for one side and the same for the other. Motorsports is a rabbit hole with a million external factors that affects one or another. That's true. I'm still right, though. And Hank says, Samantha, he's married you for a reason. Oh, yeah, I did. Not for her money, because she had none. Versa says, Martin and Vegas are on my side. Ha 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 ha. Just the facts, Wim, says Vegas. And Hank says, I don't care who's on your side. I've got Hank on my side. and he's an aerodynamicist. And Richard says, ultimately, you can never really compare because you never have the exact same material and circumstances. This is why people debate all the time about who is the best. Well, that's true. I think Max is the best. Okay, so we're drawn towards a conclusion of what I was trying to say. Lewis Hamilton shouldn't have said what he said. First of all, it's bringing the drivers that he's still on the grid with down, you know? And it looks funny when you say Max only had bad teammates, my teammates were stronger, and then you do a quali session and Alex Albon beats you in a Williams. And these things have happened. Those cars that Mercedes have developed the last 3 seasons, the W13, 14, and 15, people are talking about them as if they're shit boxes, because that's what Toto Wolff said. That they're terrible cars and you can't do anything with them. Now, Lando Norris has debunked that as well, saying that those drivers don't know what it's like to have a car that finishes in P20 or P19. Those cars are strong top contender cars, but not good enough for a championship. And still, with that material that Alex Albon would love to have, or Pierre Gasly, or Ricciardo, who are in pretty bad teams at the minute, or half decent teams, they would love to drive the W cars, and still, they're scoring nearly as many points as Lewis Hamilton. So, in conclusion, it's not fair to say that Lewis Hamilton had better teammates than Max Verstappen, because first of all, they never had the same equipment. Second of all, those guys, their careers are not over yet. And third of all, it's just not a very nice thing to say. So, that's pretty much all I had prepared. So, let's go to the chat a little bit more. And Vegas says, the only consistent data has been Max. Nobody has rode long on his second. Well, Perez is in his 4th year. That's pretty long. And Samantha says, I still have no money. Okay. Martin says, F1 races are just conversation starters. The entertainment continues for decades afterwards. Yeah, that's true. And I love the banter about it, I just like people agreeing with me as well. Versa says, but based on attrition, I think we can all agree Hamilton had tougher teammates who luckily could make the most out of the package, unlike Max's. No. The reason why it seems like Hamilton had tougher teammates is because Hamilton is this level and Button was this level. And Rosberg was also this level. And name all the teammates that Lewis had. Bottas was this level and Kovalainen was this level. So the gap looked way smaller. Yeah? Now Max is this level. And you put a driver in that's also this level of Rosberg. And then the difference is major. If you put Gasly in, that difference looks major as well. All the teammates you put next to Max, the gap is major because Max outranks them all. Yeah? And it's just very hard for Max's teammates to show their worth because there's always this guy in front of them. And that's why it seems, you know, drivers have no chance against Max because he's so consistent and so good. Drivers against Lewis Hamilton had a chance because he had off weekends, um, because he was a bit of a one-trick pony as well. He would start the race quietly, do his laps. Sometimes he got overtaken by other drivers, which was fine because he always saved up for the last stint, and then it was hammer time. He always had, a lot of tires left, and then he would just sprint to the finish and beat everybody by 30 seconds. So yeah, we can talk about this for ages, but that's pretty much what it is. Sam says, Sam, you have access to his now? Yes, Hank. Samantha and I own the business together we have, so the split is 60-40, and the house is half hers, so he's alright. Versa says, Max is a driver I have tons of respect for, but I don't personally see him as a GOAT. If you want a driver I don't like at all, it's probably Lawson, but I think we all know that. Okay, well, I have nothing against Lawson. Hank says W13 to 15 are still decent cars. The 13 got third, the 14 got second, and now the 15 is about fourth or fifth. Exactly. And Samantha says, yeah, I'm a snob in training. And Outlaw says, these are difficult times for Lewis and Sky and Lewis fans. For us Dutch, these are crazy good times. Well, that's true. But here's another thing. Sky Sports is slowly shifting to Ferrari praise because Lewis Hamilton is going there. Yes? Vasseur is outranking Total Wolff now. Who could have thought? Vasseur, ha 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 ha, so funny. And oh my god, he's building such a good team. And that's why after the quali today, the mood was a little bit, hey. Because they were hoping for a Ferrari pole. Definitely. Okay, Versa says, oh, so you're saying Max is 5th 10 and all his teammates are 310? I don't know what you mean by that, but never mind. Vegas, it's not so posh here though. Even the 14-year-olds have one. Okay, Versa says, but Lewis is 10-10 and all his teammates were 9-10. No, I get what you mean now. No, Lewis is, say, an 8 out of 10, but the package he had, it hid a lot of his flaws. And Bottas was 6 out of 10, and Button was 7 out of 10. And they were all really close. And Max is 9.5. So if a driver comes in that performs at level 7, the gap looks big, but it's actually still a decent driver. And Pendarky says, Versa, you're being very childish. Yeah, Versa, stop being so childish. I'm never texting you again that I'm having a live stream. I texted him myself. Vegas says, Max is racing. He doesn't split his streams over multiple interests. Lewis races as time allows sometimes. Yeah, that's true. Versa says, I know guys, just banter. I say all of this, but I actually don't hate on any driver. I just enjoy the sport, whether it's Max, Lando, Sainz, or even Latifi on top. Sport doesn't have to be tribal. Well, that's true. Vegas, they're toys for us, Samantha. My mailbox is 2 miles from the main house. Oh my god, that's a luxury. I suppose there's a lot more space in Nevada than here in the Netherlands. So yeah, guys, that concludes my live stream. I've been going for an hour now, so I don't know if there's any more questions. Ooh, let's do some predictions. My prediction on the Wheel Sports community page, I don't know if you guys do that, but if you type in Wheel Sports community on Google, you can register and then you can put in predictions before every race, but you need to do it before quali. And then There's no prize yet. I'll probably get a t-shirt. But I'm actually second in the standings now. Because my last race I had like 8 correct or something. So, but anyway, for these predictions, I have Lando Norris win. Max in second place. I have Sainz in P3. And then normally you would get Perez and Leclerc. But I had predicted, stupid, that Leclerc and Perez will have an altercation and will both DNF. So I'm hoping that they'll DNF, but with somebody else in the race. So I still, because if you get a DNF, you get a point for the DNF and for the position they're in. So that's good. So those are my predictions. Guys, what are your predictions for the race tomorrow? Samantha says, sounds perfect to me, Vegas. No people. Yuck. Very few people. Well, see, from the movies I watch about Nevada, there's a lot of people in the desert, but they're buried. Casino is in Nevada. Oh, and The Godfather Part 2. The big casinos. Yeah. Samantha says, Versa, nah, it's all fun. Message from the Dutch government. Do not let Versa talk about Max. And Vegas says, but I go into town and it's international. Samantha says, Vegas, I'm jealous. Outlaw says, versatile. Lewis had a big scam car when he won. And the team and the teammate helped Lewis. Remember, Valtteri, it's James. Lewis is honestly not that good, in my opinion. Martin says, while we were spending time searching, I saw that Piastri had been penalized down to 5th place from 2nd on the grid. Yeah, I saw that just before I started the stream. Yeah, he blocked Magnussen pretty badly, though, which is usually a mistake of the team. So I always hate it when the driver gets penalized, but yeah. Plenty of room in the high desert. Big scam, I mean the PU deal with FIA, says Outlaw F1. Hank says Max win. And Martin says Max win, Sainz 2nd, Lando 3rd. Okay. Versa says, I'm not even having a Lewis. Oh, I'm not even a Lewis fan. No, Versa just likes to be awkward on streams. Striver for Success. That's another new name. Hello, Striver for Success. I'm actually wrapping up this live stream. Versa says, I think it's going to be Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Piastri. Yeah, I've got a Norris win as well. Because I always like to compare Norris winning with waiting on a bus. You know, remember when you're waiting on a bus and it takes ages and ages and ages and ages? And then a bus shows up with another bus behind it. So you get 2 in a row. And this is what's going to happen with Norris. And I'd like to leave it at that. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on this live stream. I had a great time. And I'll see you all maybe next week or the week after. I don't know yet. But I'll find a proper topic and then we'll smash it out of the park again. Okay? Take care now.